If you're looking for beginner-friendly clothes that you can make with step-by-step instructions, then this DIY overall dress is for you. This is for absolute beginners. Even if you've never sewn clothing before, you will be able to make this dress. It's that easy, and it can be worn year-round. So you're gonna get a lot of mileage out of this project. So let's dive in and see what you need to make this. So as you can see from the list, you're gonna need some pretty basic sewing supplies, but you're also gonna need the front and back of this project. Now, if you don't have this yet, don't worry. This video is part of a playlist that I've linked for you below, where I show you step-by-step how to either draft your own overall dress from scratch, again, totally for beginners, or I give you my perfect overall sewing pattern totally free in another video in the playlist. So if you don't have the front and back of your dress yet, just jump down to the description and start this playlist from the beginning, okay? Now, if you already have the front and back of your dress, then let's start sewing this together. That way you can actually wear it. Now, this step is super simple. All we're going to do is lay the front and back on top of each other, lining up these side seams. And then we're going to sew these side seams using a 1/2 inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance. Just sew all the way down, making sure you backstitch. It's really important. Once the side seams are done, we're going to work on the bottom hem. And we're just going to take the bottom hem and fold it up 1/2 inch or 1 centimeter. And then we're going to sew this. Now, before we get started, I need to tell you 3 important pieces of information. First of all, when we sew the hem of your dress, the stitch line is going to be visible from the outside of your dress. When we sew the side seams, all that stitching is invisible. You can't see it from the outside, but the hem will be visible, okay? Now, when we're stitching this line, you have a couple of options. You can either pick a thread that matches your fabric, so that way this stitch line, even though it is visible from the outside, pretty much won't be seen because the color of the thread and the color of the fabric matches. Okay, that's an option. Another one, and I really recommend it on these overall dresses, is to use a contrasting color. Like when you look at denim overall dresses, it's this blue denim fabric and this brown thread that they use for the top stitching. And it just gives it this extra level of detail and it looks so good. So for my green overall dress, I'm going to be using white thread so it contrasts and you get that extra level of detail. Okay? And then finally, once you've picked your thread color, you can either use regular thread, which tends to be very thin, or you can use a top stitching or jean thread. Now for my project, because I want this to be contrasting and I want it to be super visible, I'm going to be using a white jean thread. And when you go to the fabric store and you're looking at all your thread options, there should be a section, like most sections are called multi-purpose, all-purpose, that kind of wording. There should be a section called jean or top stitching. And those are the threads that you'll want to use if you want this stitch to be thicker and more visible. Okay, so now that you know that we're stitching on the top side of our fabric, because the stitch is going to be visible, you've picked your thread color and you've picked the type of thread, it's time to actually start sewing. And when we sew this, because we're stitching from the top, we may not know exactly where to line up our needle on our fabric. So to check this, we're going to start by placing our project wrong side facing up so we can see where our needle is in relation to this folded over piece of fabric. Now, you're going to want to line this up so that the needle catches this folded edge of fabric as close to the edge as you feel comfortable. Somewhere around here is usually good. Okay, so once you've lined up your fabric and you know where you need to line it up when you're sewing, usually it's a line here on your needle plate or the side of your presser foot. Then we can take the project out, place it under, lining it up with that same point so we know we're stitching in the right place. And starting at the side seam. There's a lot of little tips and tricks to this, but you got this. I believe in you. Okay? So when you start and end your stitching and you backstitch, you may not get those stitches exactly lined up. So that section can be just a little bit messy, and you don't want that to show up at the front or the back center of your dress. That's the most noticeable there. So to hide this, in case there's any problems, start at the side seam. That's the least noticeable place on your dress. So even if you mess up a little bit, no one's gonna notice. So once you're on the side seam and you know you have your needle in the right place, just do a nice, easy straight stitch all the way around the hem of your dress. And now that we have the sides done and the hem, yeah, it's really this quick, all we have left to do is to finish the top edge of our dress. And to do this, we're going to start with the curved edges of the top. We're just going to fold them towards the wrong side of our fabric, about 1/4 of an inch or 1 centimeter. And just clip this down all the way around. And the only hard part about this is the very bottom of your curve can be a little bit tricky. But my advice to you is to clip that very bottom point right at the side seam first, clip it in place, and it's going to try to pull a whole lot of fabric down. Don't worry, just grab it and pull it and adjust it and play with this until you can get a nice smooth curve of about that 1/4 inch, 1 centimeter, all the way from that side seam up to the top of your front and back of your dress. Once you've gotten this clipped all the way in on one side, repeat on the other side. And once you have both sides pinned in, we're going to head to the sewing machine. Now when we sew this, we're going to use the same trick as we did with the hem, because this stitch line, again, is going to be visible from the right side. So we're going to start by placing the project wrong side up so we can figure out where our needle placement needs to be. Now, for me on my project, because this is narrow, I'm actually going to end up lining up the folded edge of my fabric with the midpoint, halfway point between my needle and the edge of the presser foot. Okay, so play around with this on your machine and find a sweet spot where the needle is going to actually catch and sew into that folded over piece of fabric. Okay, once you found your position, we're going to take the project out, put it under the presser foot, right side of your fabric facing up, and then go as slowly as you need, because again, this will be visible, but just slowly stitch all the way around this curved section. Do this on both sides, and you are amazing. That was probably the hardest part of this whole project, this little curved hem, but you did it. And now that you have finished that curved edge, the last thing we need to do is finish the top of the front and back of our dress. But we will actually be doing that when we add straps in the next step. So if you're ready for that, check out the video here. And if you are new to the channel, if you found this video helpful, then I would absolutely love to have you follow below, subscribe, because all of my videos are made for absolute beginners. So if you're looking for more sewing projects that you can make as a beginner, then subscribe, because I will definitely have more content. But you can check out my current playlist of all the beginner-friendly projects I currently have on this playlist here. Whatever you decide to do, happy sewing.